Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Introduction to Finance course. And in this first lesson, we're going to be talking about the business cycle. If you follow the markets follow this cycle where it's doing pretty well, the expansion, and then it reaches a peak where you have a feeling of euphoria, where everything's going really, really well, and then followed by a contraction, and then a trough. And then it just repeats itself after that. So what happens in the expansion phase are banks are lending more to businesses, which means that businesses are expanding, they're opening more stores, and they're hiring more people. And the people who are being hired have more money to spend. And cyclical stocks do pretty well in this expansion phase. Automotive, specialty retail, home furnishings, apparel, air travel. So whenever you have more money in your pocket, what specifically do you buy more expensive things of? And that's basically what falls into cyclical stocks. What follows the expansion is the peak. So this is the period of full employment and maximum point of economic activity. Nobody knows when the peak is, and people start guessing, well, the market's going to go down, and eventually it does. And so that is represented by the contraction phase, basically the opposite of the expansion, because banks are lending less, businesses are hiring less, and people are spending less. So maybe a person realizes that they spent too much money and they start scaling back their spending, and they're being more frugal. They're just buying the essentials that they need. And if this phase lasts more than 6 months or more, it's called a recession. If it lasts 18 months or more, it's called a depression. And basically, the trough is what follows. This is where basically a survival phase. You're just spending enough to get by. Businesses are just scaling back. They're just realizing, what exactly do I need to have in my budget for the business to survive? And banks are not lending that much because they want to make sure that they're going to get paid back. Regardless of what phase the market is in, defensive stocks are always the things that are being purchased, regardless, because people need these things to get by through the day, such as tobacco, alcoholic beverages, pharmaceuticals, etc., especially utilities, because regardless of how the market is doing, you're always going to need water, electricity, and other essential things. So that is the business cycle. If we take a look at the S&P 500 index, which is basically technology stocks, you can see how the business cycle has gone through, repeated again and again. No, I don't want to do that. So one of the interesting things about this is the 2000 business cycle. So around between 1994 and 2000, this is the expansion phase. This is when the internet was being realized. People started seeing the value of the internet and the future of this industry and how it would change basically everything. So Google, Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon were just starting here, and they were basically using the internet to change the industry. And then somewhere in 2000, summer of 2000, basically the bubble. It was basically a bubble. Things were overvalued. Maybe people started realizing that the internet isn't really doing much right now, and everything is overvalued. And so people started scaling back. They started being basically defensive because maybe they were paying too much for stock in other internet-related businesses, which is basically the contraction phase follow. So from summer 2000 to 2002, It is a 2-year cycle, so basically 8 quarters. And if we look at our, so basically it was a depression in terms of the S&P 500 because it lasted more than 6 quarters. And then you reach a period of Trough where businesses were just spending just enough to get by, and then you have the cycle start over again. And where are we right now? Well, it's really interesting when you look at this weekly chart of the S&P 500. You can say that the expansion started in 2009, and it really has just kept on going up to present day. And so, are we at a period of peak, or is the expansion phase going to continue? So that is the interesting question to ask at this point in time. So you can look at many different indexes to see where the markets are at, and in my opinion, we are close to the peak. If not, we're at the peak. So we'll see what happens in the next few years or months. All right, so that is business cycles.